We have the perfect first guest to referee all that is at stake in these and so much more of the accountability hearings on Capitol Hill. He's the president of Judicial Watch, always fighting for truth and transparency in America. He's our good friend, Tom Fitton. He joins us now. Tom, welcome back.
Good morning, both of you, or I should say good evening.
It is a good evening, a busy evening. I want to just get your reaction to the news we just talked about. An FBI agent corroborates the IRS. It looks like all this favoritism and political interference is now really being corroborated in multiple corners when it comes to the Hunter Biden investigation. Your concerns about what you're hearing?
It's a significant development because the prior testimony was all out of a different agency, which is the IRS. You had Shapley and his colleague, whose name we don't know yet, testify and will testify again that you had this obstruction and interference that they were being briefed on by Weiss and others about the Hunter Biden investigation, and which obviously touches on Joe. And then now we have this information, according to your report, John, that the FBI agrees, yeah, there was an issue. So at least one agent involved working again for this U.S. Attorney Weiss in Baltimore. That's the Baltimore office is the one assigned to the Hunter Biden investigation, which raises a whole host of other issues about having an underpowered office investigate the son of the president. But you know, how many government officials from different government agencies must testify to government obstruction and corruption and cover-up before more significant steps are taken to get to the bottom of this? And we saw this last week. You know, Wray, in my view, is feeling the heat. And, you know, Congress shouldn't let up. You know, obviously, this testimony will increase the pressure on the Justice Department to, in the least, appoint a special counsel. But certainly, I don't see how impeachment is avoidable by the House Republican leadership for much longer.
Tom, I want to pick your brain about this a little bit more because we've already learned a lot from Gary Shapley and also from John's conversation with him on his podcast. So I think for the American people to witness this testimony publicly is going to be really important. What do you think are some of the high points, the highlights, the headlines that House investigators and members of Congress need to hit on to really just kind of provide transparency for the American people?
Well, you know, the election interference we've all complained about with the FBI hiding information about Hunter Biden's corruption and corruption tied to Joe Biden, that was election interference. In a sense, Americans weren't told about it. But also government officials, IRS investigators who are investigating this also weren't told about it. So that election interference also, in my view, was obstruction of justice. And I think we're going to see elements of that obstruction of justice testified to under oath before Congress. And the other big question is, did Attorney General Garland tell the truth when he suggested that the U.S. Attorney Weiss, who was placed there with the approval of 2 Democratic senators by Trump, did he have full authority to investigate and prosecute Hunter Biden and any others? And it's clear he was telling people on the inside he did not, and Garland's testimony suggests he did. So who's telling the truth? And if Garland wasn't telling the truth, that impeachment inquiry has to be broadened.
Yeah, there is so much to sort through in so little time to do it before the 2024 election is upon us, and Joe Biden's trying to run for another term. I want to turn to another place where we didn't get a lot of honest answers early on, but because of the great work that Judicial Watch has done, we're beginning to see the money flowing from multiple federal agencies to EcoHealth Alliance. That was the group that did some of the funding of research at the Wuhan lab before the coronavirus broke out. You sued for some records on a U.S. biological defense program that was giving money there. Yet another area where money was flowing into these very dangerous research programs.
You know, EcoHealth Alliance was involved in dangerous gain-of-function research, not only in China. We see elements of that happening here in the United States. The same type of research that could result in germ warfare and biological warfare against the United States if it got out of hand and out of control, where some argue it did in potentially the creation of coronavirus, the COVID-19. And on the other end, while they're getting money to engage in this dangerous research, they're also getting money from another federal agency, as you highlight, to presumably protect against the consequences of the research they're involved in. So you get EcoHealth Alliance is getting paid on both ends to create dangerous viruses, and then secondly, another federal agency was paying it to protect and be on the lookout for dangerous viruses. And I don't know how both are squared, but I do know we're not sure why they were getting money supposedly to protect America from biological weapons threats or biological threats. And the fact that they're refusing to give us the information, contrary to law, and that we've had to file a federal FOIA lawsuit to get this basic information about EcoHealth shows that this COVID scandal, which isn't just about COVID, it's about the U.S. government, in a reckless way, funding dangerous research, and the companies and the entities that do it is far from over.
Yeah. Great point.
Oh, speaking of the government blowing taxpayer dollars, I wanted to ask you about the fact that New York DA Alvin Bragg has engaged a law firm to the tune of $900 an hour to basically shut down House Judiciary and Oversight investigations into the Trump indictment. And I think back to Crossfire Hurricane and Russia collusion and investigating the investigators, and that certainly seems like what this is now. But with respect to who's paying that $900 an hour bill, I can't imagine that Alvin Bragg is emptying his pockets. Who's paying for that?
Oh, that's the taxpayer. Initially they didn't want to tell us. We asked for the record under the New York Freedom of Information law, the FOIA law in New York. And they initially blacked out that material about what the payments were. And we pushed back a bit. And to their credit, they did turn the document more fully over, and they disclosed this big bill that New York taxpayers faced through this hourly rate to this top-notch law firm. And, it just goes to show that government corruption not only is corrupt, but it's often expensive. When you try to abuse someone under law to defend yourself from a congressional investigation into this abuse, it's going to cost the taxpayers in New York a pretty penny.
Yeah, really remarkable. Tom, we got about 30 seconds left. The next couple of weeks, we're going to learn a lot about the Hunter Biden investigation. Devin Archer, the FBI agent, the IRS agent. Do you think this is breaking through to the American people, that the blockade the media had is gone?
Oh, yes. I mean, this is light years ahead, for instance, of the Russia hoax scandal, which really took 2 years before Americans fully understood what was going on there. Here, Americans see outright, in large measure, that Joe Biden has a significant corruption scandal. And I think the challenge for Republicans is, what are they going to do about it? I mean, they've made the case.
Yep.
When's the penalty phase going to come? Or is the FBI going to have its funding curtailed? Are people going to lose their jobs? Is there going to be impeachment?
That is a question, Tom, that so many people are asking. Sorry, we ran out of time there.